Fundamentally, if you look at product management or when we work in product teams, what we're responsible for is creating products that are valuable, usable, feasible, and viable. And primarily the product manager focuses on value and viability. So if you think about that, it's creating value for the organization and creating value for your users and customers, right? And the viability is, does it work within the constraints of the business? So we're thinking about how do you acquire customers? What are your sales channels? What are the compliance? What are regulations, etc.? And fundamentally, that remains the same. So the value and the viability risks are still top of mind, and product managers should have that top of mind. And that still remains very much relevant and actually becomes even more important when we start embedding AI in teams and as we start building AI-enabled products. So I don't think the relevance of product management disappears at all, but I think we need to embrace new skills, right? And also the teams that we work in and the nature of the teams and the team's size and the scope we take on might change. And will change, actually. We're already seeing that. And I think as product managers and product leaders, we need to be comfortable with talking about skills. What is my superpower? And move away from thinking about roles specifically, maybe as well. I think that's also coming in future.
In today's episode, we're exploring a topic that feels very important and foundational. How is AI actually impacting the work of product managers, and how is it also shaping product leadership? Not just in terms of tools and trends, but in how we think, how we lead, and how we make decisions when intelligence is not part of the product itself. My guest is Annu, Augustine, a product leadership coach, consultant, and founder at Network. She's helped startups and enterprise teams move from feature delivery to truly empowered product leadership. What I appreciate most in this conversation was how honest it was. We talked about what's shifting in product teams, how to build strategic confidence in the age of AI, and why discovery, not delivery, might be the true unlock for product managers today. We also got into leadership, what it means to guide teams through uncertainty, to stay close to customer context, and to evolve your skills without losing core judgment. Whether you are a product manager navigating AI or a leader coaching other traits, I think you will find this one grounding and real. Let's get into it. Welcome to the podcast. I'm glad we're doing this.
Thank you, Rene. I'm really excited to be here and share with your audience and with you all my learnings.
Awesome.
Excited.
Yeah, thank you. All right. So, Annu, do you think the role of a product manager is being redefined or just repackaged in this new world of AI? Do you think product management is changing drastically, or is it just a little change, just repackaged based on this new trend of AI? How do you see it?
So fundamentally, if you look at product management or when we work in product teams, what we're responsible for is creating products that are valuable, usable, feasible, and viable. And primarily the product manager focuses on value and viability. So if you think about that, it's creating value for the organization and creating value for your users and customers, right? And the viability is, does it work within the constraints of the business? So we're thinking about how do you acquire customers? What are your sales channels? What are the compliance? What are regulations, etc.? And fundamentally, that remains the same. So the value and the viability risks are still top of mind, and product managers should have that top of mind. And that still remains very much relevant and actually becomes even more important when we start embedding AI in teams and as we start building AI-enabled products. So I don't think the relevance of product management disappears at all, but I think we need to embrace new skills, right? And also the teams that we work in and the nature of the teams and the team's size and the scope we take on might change. And will change, actually. We're already seeing that. And I think as product managers and product leaders, we need to be comfortable with talking about skills. What is my superpower? and move away from thinking about roles specifically, maybe as well. I think that's also coming in future.
So what I'm understanding is that the product management is still very essential. The definition of the viability and the value delivery from a product and a product management standpoint still exists. Now with this change is more of the skill set that is changing, right? As a PM right now, for you to ensure this business idea, this great idea to assess viability, now you have more tools around the AI that helps you amplify those key value sets. Love it. Do you think the PMs are learning fast enough to keep up with how fast AI is evolving in this product space?
Yeah, so I think that's a good question, right? So I work with a lot of product managers, and I'm seeing two different mindsets here. I'm seeing the early adopters who are really keen to put their head around the new tools. They're playing around with the new tools. They're making a difference in the work, using the tools in the work that they do and amplifying the work or accelerating some of the elements of the work. And I'm also feeling that there's product managers who are a bit cautious about what's happening, and they're concerned and they're very careful or almost want to see how the things go before they put their head into it. So they're not so much early adopters and they're a bit slow to adapt. But my perspective on this is it's happening. You've got to embrace it and you've got to play around with the tools, but also be very aware of the good and the bad around it, because the ethics is very strong. The ethical risk around these things are very strong. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So the mindset is also very important. Embrace the growth mindsets, learn these tools, dive in, experiment as well. And there's a lot that's also been changing as well with product management. You have now prototyping is now also very important, where you have an idea instead of just talking about the viability. Now you have to create a prototype to have this tangible, presentation of what the value of what you're doing is. Evals as well with AI tools, evaluations, and all of this. So there are a lot of tools out there. Like you said, having that mindset to dive in and learn how to use these tools is very important.
Yes.
Right.
So I mean, that's so important, because I think I'm more on the early adopter side, and I think I'm encouraging more and more people to do that, because this is not going away, right? And being aware of how that's impacting your role as a product manager and being on the early wave of that is super important. And also for me, like as a coach, I've actually started playing around with the tools, right? Even if you're a product leader with product managers reporting into you, I see absolutely that you have to understand what generative AI is, the fundamentals behind it, and also understand the impact of it. And that means getting your hand deep into this. And that's what I'm encouraging people to do in the teams that I work with.
Awesome. So what are you saying in South Africa in terms of the sentiment and the feeling right now with AI? What is
Yeah.
is like a word vibe over there?
So we've got the startup space, which I think they're adopting it fast, right? So when I talk about this, I like to think about it as we've got the product delivery side, we've got product discovery, and we've got product strategy. I very much work and align with the SVPG way of work. So product delivery is all about building, deploying, testing, and deploying software, right? We are seeing significant improvements there. In South Africa, I don't know if we've taken a lot of products production code live with AI, but we definitely I see a lot of improvements in that space, and people are playing around with it to understand the impact on product delivery, right? Then there's the discovery. This is where you decide what to build, and this is where prototyping comes into play. And definitely there's teams playing around with tools like Lovable, Cursor, etc. And they're seeing and they're building live prototypes. So I think that people are embracing. So how can I use AI to accelerate the work I do? And we're also seeing product people who were engineers building these prototypes, which is amazing, because now you're seeing they can still use their skills. The roles are a little bit overlapping, because before it might be like the designer was building the prototype, but now you're getting, if you are a product manager with a good design sense, you can also do quite a bit of that work. which is exciting. It is exciting for me. I think it's a good thing, but you've got to embrace it. And it's, again, you need to have that learning mindset to do it. So definitely teams are playing around with it. They are seeing the benefits of it. When it comes to strategy, product strategy, and using AI for research, I've also seen product leaders use various LLMs for helping them doing research as well. So as a strategic input into product strategy. So definitely there's a lot of people playing around with it, but what I haven't really seen is AI enabled products using AI in a product that you're building and releasing that. There is early signs of it, but I think there is a lot of work to be done in that space. And because it's all of a sudden you have to deal with non-deterministic nature of LLMs, there's a lot to learn in that space. So it's very, very early days.
So you're seeing that adoption from the discovery side, from the experimentation, hands-on prototyping, deep research using these LLM tools. And now there's opportunity for more growth around having this built into, SaaS and AI, like having an AI product itself with AI embedded into it. So that is also coming up right now from what you're saying.
Yeah, it's starting, but I think generally there's a long way to go in terms of that worldwide, right? Because of the non-deterministic nature. We've got many examples of companies that actually release products, fired customer support teams and have had to like reverse that because of the non-deterministic nature and what you're learning in this process. But what I can say, what is different maybe in Africa and South Africa is that we fundamentally in bigger organizations have feature teams, right? We don't really have a lot of empowered teams in bigger organizations. And if you look at these feature teams, they fundamentally know about product through some sort of agile framework. And the product people are very focused on the product backlog, writing user stories, writing long requirements documents and things. And that place is going to be completely disrupted, right? Because that is where AI is going to be really strong at, and it is already good at, right? So you can use AI to accelerate that space. And probably in 5 years, that area is going to be completely automated. If you look at it, 5 to 10 years, I mean, I wouldn't know. That whole delivery side of things is likely to be automated. And therefore, what do teams need to focus on? Product discovery and strategy. And so I think in Africa, we've got a long way in terms of upskilling teams to move away from these feature teams to empowered teams. And that is a lot of hard work. And that is, I think, the biggest difference that I would think compared to other parts of the world.
Yeah, I love that phrasing, move from feature teams to empower teams. And I've been seeing that as well. In terms of using the AI for like the generative nature, like generating requirements, images, and having a productivity gain. That's happening. But it's very hard for you to want to build your own model, inculcate it, and create new features out of this. But exciting times to come. Definitely optimistic about, the growth in this space. If you could wave a wand and upgrade one skill in every product manager is navigating AI right now, what would it be?
One skill using AI.
Yeah, if you could like wave a magic wand and upgrade one skill in every product managers, what would it be?
So I would focus on the product discovery side of things, right? So the whole building empathy with your customers, customer interviews, all of that still needs to be done without AI. I don't think we want to detach from that at all, but really looking at how you can use AI to distill insights, how you can use it as a thought partner or a thought monitor to bounce off ideas around what are the assumptions you're making, identify assumptions, using it to analyze large amounts of qualitative and quantitative data around customers. Like that's what its strength is. Speed to insight, you can use AI. Where there's a huge volume of data, you can use AI. Live data prototypes, use AI, right? But you're still applying your judgment because you can feed all your interview transcripts into AI and tell it to generate summarize it, pick up patterns. It's still probably going to miss things. So you still need to go through some of the details and apply on judgment, but like that is where AI can accelerate today. So that's where I would focus. That is where I'm focusing on my coaching side. It's how do you get product owners to become true product managers and focus on discovery, and then use tools to actually get to accelerate product discovery, but still applying your own thinking and judgment.
Very important. The caveat on judgment is very important.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I like the way you phrased it around discovery, because that's important. If you have to ensure you're discovering the right thing and bring in all of these resources before you say this is in a good state for us to commit. Like as a product manager, you have to like discover what problem that you're actually solving, the right solutions to the problem, and the right opportunity you're trying to maximize, and then use your judgment and get into the state that right now you're confident. Like, okay, we can commit into this project. We can test our hypotheses. Now we can move forward in the delivery of this. But yeah.
Yeah. And what I'm watching out for is that don't use AI for customer interviews yet, right? I want the product managers to deeply understand their customers and build that empathy, and that has to be done face to face, speaking to customers ideally, and build using user empathy, and also problem framing and synthesizing. Put your hands in deep there. Don't the picture of the real stories, right? And then that's right on you. Product managers have to continue to do that.
Yeah, empathy for sure. AI cannot take that. That human connection is very important. You have to interview face to face with your customers and take every bit of information visually as well on how they're reacting to your questions and how they are, and what signals you can get. So maybe we can go back a little bit to your origin story. Started off as a software developer, and now you've gone into product management. You've coached a whole lot of people. You're a product advisor, and you've been on board in a couple of other companies as well. Um, can you tell us more about, what was that transition like? What was that a transition and attraction into product management?
Yeah. So I'm an electronics engineer actually, and hated electronics engineering. Absolutely hated it. I didn't like it, but I liked the computer electives that I took. And my first 10 years, I was a software engineer, worked primarily with Microsoft technologies. Absolutely loved it. I worked with some agile frameworks when I did it, like extreme programming, Scrum, etc. And that was my first exposure to product. So I think I still love the coding. And in fact, like 2 weeks ago, I started coding again after playing around with AI tools. But when I was a developer, I realized actually often when I was working and creating products, I had no idea about my users and customers. And that kind of frustrated me. I wasn't sure if what I was building was being used. And a big change was when Agile came along, and there was we're going to do something in 2 weeks, and we're going to get feedback from our customers. Absolutely love that. Got exposed to customers and users, and I was like, no, I really love this, and I really want to make sure whatever I'm building is giving some benefit to the users, and I want to understand that. And that's what actually triggered me to transition into product, and I got the opportunity to do that within the organization I was working in. And I actually even had to sell the concept of product to my manager, because it was just very early days. And he was like, okay. And it was financial services, very, in those days, not a lot of companies even had a product owner. And then, yeah, I transitioned. Absolutely loved it. I really like connecting problems with technology. And this whole thing about innovating on behalf of your users is like what I love, right? So, and that's how I transitioned into product. And my first exposure to product was through Agile and Scrum, to be honest. And that is what most of Africa is as well, right? Our first exposure to product is through some Agile framework. And we taught, it's amazing because it taught me what iteration and delivering products in increments is about. But it doesn't really teach you everything that you need to know about product, right? How do you build the right product? And there was so much more learning I had to do. And it was all pretty much self-learning, also investing in my own growth. And I transitioned to product management, did that for about 10 years, did it for startups and medium-sized organizations. And then after that, I started helping various organizations and entrepreneurs in the weekends even. And then I was like, I think I should start my own company. And that's how I started NetRock about 9 years ago. And I haven't really turned back since then. I'm really helping, now at the moment, I'm helping many different types of organizations, some bigger organizations like banks, insurance companies. Also work with like startups as an advisor, helping entrepreneurs take some sort of tech product to market.
And this is all when you launched it and, you just shed more light on that, having to bridge the gap between software development. Building a software seems like this big behemoth, but with Agile, I think it's making it much easier. Take it from the first iteration, the MVP, get the feedback and then iterate and slowly at the end of it, you're having this big software that actually serves and meets your customer need. No, I like that approach of Agile and Scrum development.
Yeah, and I think fundamentally the principle of iteration and increment, that if you get that concept and that mindset, you can apply it to AI as well. I just realized that, right? Like even when you look at some of the AI things that we're doing, right? Like you have to approach it iteratively and incrementally, even with evals, for example. You can't build evals one day and it's all done. You have to keep evaluating the failure scenarios, the traces, build it into an eval, build a code-based or a human judge eval. It's all iterative and incremental approach. So I feel like if you can really embrace that principle, you can apply it in AI as well. And you have to actually, otherwise it's very hard to succeed.
I think that's a life skill there as well, because it's just a basic fundamental model, fundamental approaches. Just take it slow and steady, and then iteratively just improve. Even if it's just a 1% improvement over time, that culminates into something important.
Yeah,
Awesome.
absolutely. Yeah.
All right. So, in your view, I think what I'm understanding is that AI has changed the actual day-to-day of product managers. Now you have to use some of those tools to have more of that productivity gain around discovery, around prototyping, around requirement gathering. Now you can use AI tools to be more empowered around that. So how do you coach PMs to stay strategic when AI models and AI tools are now handling the tactical thinking? We don't, PMs are still very important. They have value. But how do you ensure that as a PM, right? How do I remain relevant and not redundant? I have that strategic play when all of these AI tools are already taking up most of the rudimentary work.
Yeah. So again, like if we look at product delivery side, that's where almost the tactical piece of work sits, right? So in Africa, a lot of there's often very little time spent on product discovery. So what I'm saying is, like, if you're spending like 60, 70%, probably more of your time feeding the backlog, let's use the efficiencies and reduce that time in the delivery side. And then how are you going to take that extra percentage of time that you have and put it into product discovery? And all of a sudden, you've got so much more time to spend with your users and customers, because product managers today don't have time to do that. What is your unique value proposition? So I often see that product leadership is responsible for strategy. The product discovery work that you do, which is getting insights. Part of it is getting your insights from your users and customers. And you need to feed that back into the strategy, right? And all of a sudden, you've got so much more time to do that, which is exciting for me. Like that is the biggest excitement. I want to see them doing a lot more product discovery and getting really strong on the product discovery skill sets, and also playing around with a lot of tools that will help them with that. And then you can partner with your designer. If you've got a designer, a lot of teams in Africa might not have designers, then you can use the tools, learn how to use the tools, and really build your product discovery muscle. The other thing that I encourage is improving your product metrics skills. you'll find that in South Africa and Africa, the product metrics and product analytics is often a secondary thought. For your product, what is the important metrics that you need to know at any point in time? Do you have the analytics in place? What do you need to put it in place? It actually takes some time. Defining that, super important. So spending time building those metrics and the analytics around it so that that can feed into your product strategy is also super important. So I'm hoping that we're getting product owners to like shift from the delivery, I don't know, endless cycle of feeding that backlog to discovery and setting up analytics and making sure they know at any point in time what their customers are doing on their products. So that's what I'm encouraging them to do. And also shifting them, getting them to think in terms of outcomes versus features, right? So are you improving your onboarding process today? Are you looking at the drop-offs? What is the metrics around that? What do you need to improve? What are the problems you need to solve around that? What are customers feeling? What is the pain point during onboarding? Spending a lot more time there because that is where impact is.
Love it. How do you, just to simplify and unpack, like what do you mean by product metrics? If you can break that down for us.
Yeah. So if you, for example, let me just think about a good product. If you're looking at an insurance product, just say you're looking at an insurance product. Insurance products usually have an onboarding process. So you have a digital onboarding process. And then you also have the monthly premiums that you pay from there on, right? So if you look at a digital insurance product, what is the most important metrics you need around that product? So I think it's something around like we have every month, 80% of our users are finishing onboarding successfully, or actually we have a significant drop off. So that is an important metric. In terms of premiums, what percentage is paying the premiums on time? How many of them are partially paying? How many of them are defaulting? All of that. So the metrics depends on your product and the business model. Do you understand enough to define those metrics based on your business model? And you're tracking it, right? And I think that is so important, to be the ability to be able to first look at a high level, this is what my metrics looks like today. And then, oh my gosh, we're having drop-offs, then the ability to zoom in on that problem, right? Like, is there like a particular segment of users are dropping off, or is it a particular page that we're dropping off? Super important. So the metrics usually is based on the product and the business model. I would expect a product manager based on their product and business model be able to define what is the most important metrics for me. And then also collaborate with marketing in terms of acquisition and what the top of the funnel looks like, all of those things. And the maturity around that has to grow significantly, like with the teams I'm working with.
Awesome. So, okay, I think I get it now. So these are quantitative data points that drives the North Star of your, okay, would this be different from OKRs or?
So OKRs, yeah, absolutely. So for me, OKRs are very relevant, but it's a goal setting mechanism, right? So it enables focus together with the strategy. So if for the next quarter, you might have a specific OKR you need to focus on as a team, right? So that is very important when you're moving to outcome-based teams versus feature teams. You'll find that feature teams don't have usually OKRs or don't have goals. OKRs just a goal-setting mechanism. And it might be that you might use one of your product metrics to define, might be the OKR for the next quarter. However, I differentiate the two. There's product health metrics we should always be looking at to see what's happening on your product. And then there's the OKR, for example, for the next quarter, which enables you to focus your backlog, the work that you take in, to be able to prioritize and say, okay, based on this OKR, we're going to focus on X, Y, Z. And we're focusing on solving these problems related to this OKR. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. So OKRs, more goal focused. The product metrics, like you defined, are more of, I would say, with based on lack of what, telemetrics or health metrics that shows you the pulse of your product and how it's performing and how it's going. Okay.
Yeah. And awesome. The OKRs is something that enables you to focus for the next quarter, for the next year, based on strategic decisions that the organization made.
Awesome. All right. So what's one, in terms of team dynamics right now, what's that subtle shift in team dynamics you've observed when AI becomes part of the product or process? And now you've seen that there's now, I think, product management piece is now becoming the bottleneck versus engineering previously, right? Because you have the requirements and now engineering takes the time to execute. But right now, with all of the vibe coding and all of the AI tools, it's easy for engineers to write code base, to write code and push out. Now the bottleneck is now shifting a little bit from what I've heard and seen is now shifted into product management, whereby there needs to be that catch up and pace in discovery. Like you said, discovery is very important, but discovery is not something you rush, you rush to, create requirements and push. But how do you see this team dynamics? What's one shift you see in terms of team dynamics that you've observed so far?
I would say still early days for me to see the dynamics play out, to be honest. But what I'm saying is that everyone is cautious and there's a sense of fear in what's coming, right? And honestly, I feel like you can take it to your advantage if you think less about your role and more about, like I said initially, like what is your unique skill set you bring to the team. And that's how I'm thinking about it. It's like there's still so much value in product management in terms of defining those metrics, making sure aligning on the OKRs, making sure the team is focusing. Most of the backlog items are focused on those OKRs, bringing the customer insights in. All of those things still remain relevant, but I think you need to be less fussed about who's doing what, because the teams are going to become smaller. I think the advantage, people who can do a bit of design and product and engineering, do a little bit of coding, are at an advantage as we go forward. So I would say having a growth mindset, playing around with as many tools as possible, all of that is to your advantage. Right. And the worst thing is to sit still and sit with fear. I don't think that's the way to win this.
Yeah. No, I love it. And I think this is a good advice to help build confidence in an unfamiliar territory like AI. Just get hands-on, use these tools without overcomplicating things. Right now it's not about building models and trying to have the right data sets and you're tuning LLMs. This is just more of just using these tools and experimenting.
Yeah, absolutely. Use the tools, experiment it, and also understand generative AI is super important. So I think this is specifically important in Africa because we're working on models like, for example, I'm using ChatGPT. I know a lot of people are using Claude. I know a lot of other people using Perplexity for research, etc. Right? But I think it's important for me fundamentally to understand how these models were built. I always believe in understanding the why and how behind these things, right? How did they build these models? They had to actually pre-train it, put a lot of data in it, and then fine-tune it. Where did they get the data from, right? Was the data from Africa in there, right? Does it have that context? So what an informal market in Nigeria looks like. For example, how is M-Pesa used in Kenya? What is the context? In South Africa, what does townships and the events in townships look like? Africa is so different, right? And I worry that the models don't have this context, right? And whatever this model gives you, that is why you have to contextualize it to your environment and the country that you're in. As product manager, you're deeply responsible for that and not take everything as it comes out from these models. Use it to help you augment your thinking, but contextualize it.
I love that. Context, kind of like context engineering.
Absolutely. So even when you're writing these prompts, right, the more context you feed it, the better the output would be. And how do I know that? Because I understand how LLMs work now. And I expect every product manager to do the same. Honestly, this is not an 8-hour job anymore. We all have to spend time understanding where the world is going.
I love it. Yeah. You have to understand the tool you're using. the thing, even if not in details, like as this configured and how does this help me and provide, Like how does all of this feature help me amplify I am delivering value in the context of what I'm working on? It's not just more of a pick and just use. And I like when you talked about, the importance of having the right context, the right data furnishing into those AI tools, right? Because Africa is it's unique on its own, right? As a PM in Africa, you have to understand how you can bring in the right data that blends in and, furnishes enough information to what you're working on.
Absolutely. So I'm at the moment working on SCPG's and Christian's doing like a product leadership accelerator in Africa. I'm sure he talked about it. And I'm just appreciating, like, we've got product managers from Ghana, Rwanda, Kenya, Nigeria. And I'm just appreciating the differences, like in each country. It's significant, right? And I think someone sitting in the US or the Europe, they look at Africa as a whole, but geez, we are complex. We're a complex continent with many different cultures, different ways of work. Every country is different in its context. So I've got deep appreciation.
Aside from the LLM, also from the customer understanding as well. Like when you speak to people in Africa, the context is also very different. Not just from the model or the feature, like more of like the empathy, trying to understand their problems. It's also very diverse as well.
Yeah, so I think what I can highlight, right, in Africa is that product and tech adoption is very much human, deeply human, and trust driven.
Trust is the keyword there. Yeah.
Trust, like that human connection is still pretty important in many countries. And then if you, for example, look at M-Pesa, super successful in Kenya, but not super successful in South Africa. There's a reason, right? Every country is different. So that's why the context is also important.
Love it. Awesome. So let's dive into your playbook quickly. You've been a coach and a mentor for a lot of product managers and startups and organization. What's a mindset and principle you keep returning to in your coaching playbook? Sort of a mentor model?
Yeah. So I think for me, fundamentally, I think the thing that I keep checking in now on is a growth mindset, given where we are today, is like a product manager needs to be curious and also have a growth mindset and also open-minded. Given where the world is going, there's a lot of changes coming, and how do you adapt to it? That is what I'm checking in on, because I think you can't ignore what's happening. So in my coaching sessions, it's like, okay, what is the latest tool you're using? Are they open-minded? Are they playing around with different tools? Because each LLM has its strengths and weaknesses. That's what I'm encouraging them to do, and also to embrace what's happening, and also do it cautiously, right? Because like I said, you don't want to outsource your thinking to these LLMs. Then we're all in a dangerous place. So a lot of my coaching is I've been testing those things and encouraging all the product people to play around with these tools, also highlighting where you need to be careful.
And I think you touched about it earlier, the judgment piece. That's very, very important, and that's human. And that also comes with experience as well.
Absolutely. And I think as product leadership, that's what you need to be checking in with as well, right? So product leadership, I refer to like head of products, chief product officers, like with your product managers. You need to now all of a sudden have a new skill yourself as a product leader. Firstly, as a product leader, I think you need to have better management skills all of a sudden. The other day, I listened to a podcast, I think it was Lenny's podcast, where he was chatting to Airtable CEO, right? He had stepped up. He wasn't in the details, but now he's stepped back into the details to understand generative AI. And that is what product leaders also need to do now, because otherwise you don't know what you're dealing with. I fundamentally believe whether you're a product leader or an individual contributor product manager, you need to play around with these tools, encourage your people to use these tools, and also test the information they're bringing to you to make sure that they're still applying their own judgment, and question like, why are we doing this versus that? What is the thinking behind it? All of that. So I think I can't understate how important your role as a leader is also changing in this world. And I think you need to set a good example on how to use these tools, right? So how are you using ChatGPT? So use it to generate a document and then share it on ChatGPT with your team. that's a good way to set an example. Like, I've used ChatGPT here. Look what it gave me. What do you guys think? Right? That transparency around it and how you educate your PMs and using it is also important. It's like, okay, this is what I did. This is what we have to watch out for. This is the context that I fed it. Like doing that and setting, being a leader and setting an example, I think is super important as well.
Awesome. This is, and I think I keep hearing the same thing, which speaks more to the fact that this is a skill set that would stand the test of time. From all of the conversation I've had previously, and like I just keep having the same word around, judgment, product sense, empathy, product taste, understanding your customer. It seems everything, product management right now is now moving away from just the hardware tactical. It's not more of the soft skills not being amplified, because if AI is doing everything below, it's not more of that soft skill.
Absolutely. So it's that the strategy bits, the discovery bits, and then also like you have a great role to align stakeholders, right? Aligning the teams, team morale, evangelism, like all important. And those are soft people skills. And you can spend more time building out those skills, which is also good. Before, like when you're doing everything, like it's hard to focus on those really soft skills. And even evangelizing AI within your organization, all of those stuff, all of those things. Now, all of a sudden, you can actually focus on those things, which is exciting. For me, like if I look at it in total, it's exciting. And I want everyone to like embrace it, but you have to be so careful, like know the why and how these tools are being developed. And also be cautious about how you use it. I can't understate that, especially when you're enabling it in your product. Very important to understand the non-deterministic nature of AI, right? And I think if you are in the finance or medical field, where do you pull the human in the loop here? Super important. What does that experience look like end to end? If you embed AI in it, what are the risks? What is the impact, right? And how do you make sure you're de-risking that? So all of a sudden, new things to think about. And that's quite like the ethics side of things is also very strong.
So, so if everyone is doing that, what makes one an expert? Like, what would be a moat if everyone is now doing the soft skill things? Like, how would you differentiate yourself as a product leader, and also as a PM as well? Because everything is not converging into this soft skill territory. I understand the outcome is also very important because everything is, as a product leader, the ultimate goal for your business is the outcome. But if everything is now, if everyone is converging into the space of soft skill, like how would you differentiate yourself uniquely? What would be your moat as a PM in terms of your expertise?
So I think your strategy, no doubt, is the product strategy skills, right? Because what we're getting into is a world where it becomes super easy to create products, right? Even a team of 3 can do amazing things. One single person can do amazing things. So for the same problem that you're solving, you're going to find so many more products. And how are you going to differentiate this? How you differentiate your products that's 10 times better than the other products? You have to spend so much more time understanding that, because otherwise we're just building more products and having more failures. Like the 90% failure we have today, it's going to continue. And that doesn't make sense, right? We don't want to do that. So like, how do you build your strategic skills? How do you differentiate your product from other products in a market that is going to be super saturated? That's like the skill that you need that strategic thinking. And how do you build that? Customer insights, qualitative feedback, quantitative feedback, understanding the trends, etc. I would say, like as a leader, that is super important. If I'm looking at individual contributor product manager, I'm thinking about, like, if I look at where we are in Africa, we need to upskill them to think outcomes. Everything you do has to be connected to an outcome. If not, you shouldn't be doing it, right? So it's like moving from a feature mindset to outcome-based mindset in Africa is super important. We need to grow those skills. And that's a lot of the time I'm spending is doing that. And it is a journey of sorts.
The mindset is very foundational. Once you have the right mindset, they believe that you can do anything comes to play.
Yeah. So, I mean, as a product manager, you have to be connected to where the company is going and you need to know how to move the needle. And that is superpower you need to develop. You can't anymore be spending 80% of your time grooming the backlog if you don't know what the right things are in the backlog.
Awesome. So I love it. So what you're saying is that uniqueness would come around your strategy. And that strategy is being powered by discovery, understanding the quantitative, qualitative signals you're getting. And this is something that's, it's not a one-time thing. It's something that's ever growing. It compounds as you get that experience. You have that deep product sense of your user, your customer, the market, everything converging, the trifecta. Like this evolves, and over time this now becomes your moat and your strategic advantage in the space where you're operating.
Yeah, absolutely. Right. So, but also like, I think when you're building AI enabled products, there's a completely new strategic element to it, which I don't want to unpack now. It's a long whole thing. Because the dynamics of building an AI enabled products, like when it comes to the viability side of things, because like LLMs, every LLM core costs money, right? Like there's a cost to it. So how do you build a viable business? It's a big thing, I think. So AI strategy is completely another thing on the side, but either way, it's your strategic mindset. Like, how do you build a successful business, and how do I define the product strategy for it?
I love it. Like everything is changing, like you said. Like tech right now, the space at which where we are right now, I don't think anyone saw that we could go this fast with AI. Every month, every quarter, you think you've gotten to like a peak, and there's something that comes out again. But
Yeah.
I think according to your customer is also very important too, because irrespective of the shift, as far as you have a customer in mind and understand what value means to them, irrespective of the technological shifts, you're anchored around how do I serve my customer better?
Yeah. And I think the other word that I want to use is you adapt. You have to adapt. Like all of a sudden, you can't really be set in your ways. Everything that's happening, you have to be able to adapt as a person, like product person. Be very open and you adapt your ways. And like if thought Lovable is great, tried it. Now after a week, you hear there's another tool coming out. Like there's so many things. And I would say don't get hung up on one tool. Also, you want to experiment many tools. And that's why this being adaptable to what's happening around you is super important. And I'm not naturally an adaptable person, but I've realized I need to be, right? So it's like important to be adapt to what's happening around you.
Well, the continuous improvements, the iteration, Agile is very adaptive, and hopefully that helps you navigate this space. All right. So we're going to be moving to the last segment of our conversation. This is a quick fire insight stack. So I'm going to ask a couple of questions around what makes you a better person. What's one book that you keep going to as a source of guide around product thinking, product management, code for, product leadership as well in terms of how you coach? And I know there's a lot of area into that, but irrespective of the domain, what's one book you go to regularly for deeply insights?
Yeah, so I do read a lot of SVPG's books, like Inspired, Empowered, and Transformed, especially because where we're going, we need to move away from featured teams to outcome-based teams. Like Transformed is like the perfect book for that. And then I read Teresa Torres's Continuous Product Discovery, amazing book, right? And I think that's very important in the future as well. Like, how do you build good discovery habits? It's not just good discovery skills, it's continuously doing it. Very, very good book for that. So I've read it a few times and I still refer to it. And there was a book called, I think, Focus by Christina. I forgot her second name. Also, it's related to OKRs and goal setting.
Oh yeah, I've forgotten that as well. Yeah. Okay, I was going to go sit in my previous organization. We had that.
Amazing book.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks for sharing that. I have also this inspired book as well, a great book from the SVPG groups. So what's one small personal habit that helps you stay grounded as a coach and leader? With this AI change, with everything going, do you have a personal habit that helps you stay grounded?
For me, it's like staying up to date all the time. Because if I'm a coach and I'm coaching other people, I can't become irrelevant. I don't want to be coaching and the practices are completely outdated. So especially this day and age, like I've taken significant time off actual paid work to learn AI because we long past the agile phase. Now it's the next phase, and it's like it's significant. I don't think I'll be around to see the end of this phase or towards like when the full benefits will be realized. But I need to be in touch with the ground and stay humble with what's happening and learn, because I can't coach if I can't learn. So I'm always in the detail, understanding things. And sometimes I do product work myself, to be honest, like, because I fundamentally believe I can't coach if I don't know how to do the work.
Stay informed, very important, because things are moving very fast right now. And like you said, you want to be able to have the right information at the right time, which is also a strategic
Absolutely.
advantage as well. What's a belief about product management you have completely reversed in the last 5 years? Like, this is what something you know about product management, and in the last 5 years, you just quickly changed. What has that been?
Yeah. So I think moving from a feature team to outcome or empowered team, I thought it was a simple thing. It isn't. I've learned. It's not natural for a lot of people. And within organizations, when you're used to doing something a certain way and you measure success like based on the number of features you build, how many story points you did, what's your velocity, and moving that team into an outcome-based team, it takes time, and it is a transformation of sorts. I try not to use the word transformation because I think it's a very corporate term. But like for me, I've accepted it is a transformation for big organizations, especially not in the startup space, when there is legacy technology, lots of people, leadership working in a certain way, and leadership that's been around for many years. When you want to move from a feature team to an empowered team, it's a journey, and I need to be patient about it. That is what I've learned, and it's been a big learning thing for me.
Yeah, and that makes sense because with all of the activity and all of the efforts, the point estimates you've put into work, I can understand the human side whereby they're like, all of the work has to be done. Even if we didn't make X% increase in revenue, but have done the work, like, why would you say it doesn't, culminate to outcome? Then it's not about higher relevance to our strategy goals. But yeah,
Yeah,
it's
and
gonna
I
be
think a lot of teams that are doing work today struggle to connect it to something meaningful that moves the needle some way. And it takes time to do that connection. But I think when it happens, this is deeply motivating. So I think, and also it's like when you move from a feature team and to an empowered team, we underestimate. It's the way of work changes from build this feature to move this needle. And people who used to being given work to do, like do this feature, when you say move this needle, they have no idea what to do. They don't know where to start. You need to be on the ground coaching them. That's what I've realized, because you'd think it's simple. Okay, this is the outcome. We're looking at increasing revenue by X percentage, and this is how your team's going to help us achieve it. And you would think, okay, we've given you the needle you need to move, and then we're going to step away, and you think magic is going to happen. No, you need to actually upskill your people and coach them.
that's a good
That's what I've learned.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because most people are used to being told what to do. You have a ticket, you have a backlog. Okay, this is what I'm doing. Now you're asking them, yeah, you're now empowered. This is the goal. Go ahead, be creative on how we can move that. And, they're stuck on how to achieve that. And I think that will require a lot of
Yeah,
coaching,
and
like
I
you said.
think sometimes management is surprised by that, but now I realize actually, look, you need to guide. We need guidance. We need to upskill. There's a capability gap here. We need to upskill, and we need to go on that journey with them.
Awesome. Love it. And the fourth question would be, what have you learned from mentoring or advising others that you wish you knew earlier? If you could go back in time,
So
what have you learned? Yeah.
I think it's I deeply value connecting with each person I mentor or a team I mentor. I feel that connecting with people one on one, understanding their backgrounds, where they come from. If I understand that, I can coach them better. And it's a lot of stuff that's actually outside work often that I connect with, and it's good. And spending the time understanding how a person was brought up, which country they were in, what are the constraints that they had, like the culture. I appreciate getting to know a person one-on-one before I coach them or during my coaching journey, because I think I can make a big impact that way.
So what would be one advice or tip in terms of like the communication? Like how do you make your impact land? Like how do you have that influence? And what would be one example, or what would be the tips and guide you would give someone, especially PMs right now, trying to amplify their soft skill to have more impact, more influence around how they communicate what they've discovered and how to move the needle? How would you advise on the best way to communicate and make that land?
So I think there's few things there, right? One is building trust with that person, right? And often it is like what you're doing when you're working with different types of stakeholders, whether it's executives or salespeople or legal or compliance. Really understand what what is their biggest concern before you bring your concern to the table. Understand, like, build a relationship with them and understand always what is their concern, because often disagreements happen because you don't understand where that other person's coming from. Understanding that the concerns of the different stakeholders, understanding what language they understand. So an executive only understands rands or cents or dollars. They don't really care about your backlog, right? So how do you speak to them in their language, and understanding, like, every quarter my CEO only cares about how much we made, and how do I connect what I did with that? So speaking their language and understanding what is their biggest concerns and what are their motivations, I think is the biggest piece of advice I can give.
Hmm. Yeah, that's really good. Because
That's how you
it's not
build
just
trust, right? If I'm sitting in product meetings and I know what my compliance partner's concerns, and I'm representing that in the product backlog refinement session, she will trust me, absolutely. So I need to understand what compliance's biggest concerns are, right? And trust takes time. I have to understand that. I have to build my knowledge around that. And then when I'm sitting in the product team, I'm always wearing that hat as well. And then she'll trust you completely. And then you can negotiate, right? With compliance, there's like always a lot of negotiation you have to do, because regulations and compliance, like, they can make user experience terrible. If you can understand their constraints and negotiate like a good balance, you're a good product manager.
awesome. Anu, thank you so much. This was such a read and grounded conversation. I like the ability to bridge these are timeless skills you should have. Timeless leadership with realities of modern tools and how you can use them is exactly what the product world needs right now. Um, where can folks follow your work or connect with you if they want to learn more?
So you can connect with me on LinkedIn. I do a lot of my writing. I don't do long writings at the moment. So LinkedIn is the place to connect with me. So you can just search Annu Augustine on LinkedIn and you'll find me there. And I respond to almost every request. I make it a point to do that.
Thank you so much, Anu. This was a very powerful conversation. Thanks, everyone, and bye for now.
Thanks. Thank you, Rene.
Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed this, please give us a like, share, and subscribe. And don't forget to visit intelligentproduct.io to learn more and stay connected.